amigos, and welcome to Inside the UPSL on TVE Max and on TVEmax.com. You can also find us on all of our social media platforms on Instagram, on Facebook, and even on Twitter. I am your host, Alex Naveja. With me tonight is Damian Calhoun and Art Eftikari, as we are here every Thursday night to bring you guys the latest news on the fastest growing pro development soccer league, the UPSL. And we'd like to welcome you guys into Off the Top, where we bring you the latest news on lower division soccer. Gentlemen, first off, I want to talk about the new signing for Valentin Sabella, signing with the Charlotte Independence in the USL Championship division. How awesome is this signing? I would want to start off with Damian first.
It's always, I mean, it's a big goal for the players to steady, sort of graduate in the soccer ranks, really. So it must be pretty cool for him.
Mm-hmm. What about you, Art? What are your thoughts as far as this signing for Valentin?
Well, it's very unique because when he was playing with Florida Soccer Soldiers, they eliminated Charlotte Independence, and this is just quite a turn of events. And he's a great player, and with the way things have gone for him, there was a time he was taking classes at Florida International University while playing for Florida Soccer Soldiers. And, it's a good thing that he didn't waste his time playing college soccer because, what he did with Florida Soccer Soldiers got him a contract with Charlotte Independence. So, really excited for Valentin Sabella for sure.
Mm-hmm. And of course, good news. Now we got to go to some bad news, gentlemen, as Temecula FC struggling to stay alive right now. As a club, they need to sell a total of 1,500 tickets for its June 22nd home match in order to return in 2020. Do you guys think that they're going to make this mark?
Well, it's hard to say.
It's going to be tough. I actually talked to Brandon Sunday morning. At that point, I think he had about 300 sold. I think he's up to like 450 or so now. Time running out, though. It's going to be tough.
I know you and I were talking a little bit before the show that it's going to be a little tough as far as the community is concerned. They needed a little more help with the community, a little more fan base, they need more support to be able to keep this franchise alive. Yeah,
we talking to him. There seems to be some sort of like, not really a give and take, but sort of like a clash between him, his team, and the community. I know he's getting a lot of support on social media. You see a lot of fans from outside of Temecula actually buying tickets, but he's gonna need a lot more here. We are, coming up on Thursday here.
Art, have you heard anything about like the ticket sales at all meeting their mark?
I would say pretty similar to what I've seen on social media, on Twitter. They're doing what they can, and of course, they're an MPSL team, and you would think being in Temecula, there's not like a bunch of other teams right in that vicinity, so I am a little surprised to hear what's going on.
So it seems like Off the Top is a little bit like a roller coaster ride. Good news, then bad news. Then we got some good news as UPSL is selecting Texas as their host state for the national finals. Is the Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex the right fit to host such a big event for the UPSL?
I would say so. I mean, you've heard me saying it all along, and that is, don't mess with UPSL Texas. So yeah, it's a good choice, and I think with so many good teams, so many good UPSL teams in Texas, yeah, you can't go wrong with it. I mean, you may not be if you don't. I'm sure you may not like the humid weather, but that's why the home teams, they got to have some kind of home field advantage.
And I mean, we all know how powerful UPSL Texas is. But Damian, any final thoughts on that selection?
Now, like you said, I mean, when you think of Texas, you think of the home field advantage, the humid weather, and don't mess with Texas either.
Yeah, that's true.
So we're gonna go ahead and take our first break here in Inside the UPSL. But when we come back, we're gonna have Damian tell us a little bit more about OC soccer. So make sure to stick around. But fans, don't forget to follow us on all of our social media platforms on Facebook, Instagram, and even on Twitter. That is at UPSL Soccer. Welcome back to Inside the UPSL, presented by TV EMAX. And now we'd like to welcome in Southern California News Group soccer writer Damian Calhoun into the show, and also cover some of the OCFC LA Galaxy game last week. Damian, we appreciate you coming on the show. How you doing?
Good. Thanks for having me.
Damian, we just want to ask you a couple of questions just about OC soccer. So first off, I mean, again, thank you so much for joining us. And you've seen a lot of Orange County soccer over the years. How big was the U.S. Open Cup run by OCFC?
Very big. I mean, especially when you look at, I mean, they knocked off Las Vegas, the Lights, and they also knocked off Orange County SC. I mean, two USL clubs, and for them to get, you know, to the StubHub Center or Dignity Health Sports Park now, that's pretty amazing run for them.
Mm-hmm. And just being the last amateur team, that's a pretty big deal as well, making it as far as they did, eliminating the competition and then winning the cash money, and then them able to play an MLS team. That's a pretty big deal, I would say.
Yeah, you get, like you say, you get that $25,000 prize for being, you know, the last amateur club there. And then for the first half, they gave the Galaxy all they could handle there. I mean, went to halftime scoreless. Second half, the Galaxy sort of broke them down, got a goal, got a free kick goal, and then sort of opened up and got, you know, two more goals there to pull the game out 3-0.
You know, Damian, you know, how about, you know, in terms of how things have changed recently, you know, how much have you seen the soccer scene change in Orange County?
I sort of remember it. I mean, when I first started at the Orange County Register, which was back in 2003, with the OC Blues, whenever they played a game, they would like call us or email us their score on a Saturday night, and they would like, I mean, I was like, well, I mean, they would call us in. They would call us at like 9:30 on a Saturday night. And I was like, dude, who are the OC Blues? Who are you? What do you want? But then, you know, they've developed into the Orange County Soccer Club, and it just shows you how big soccer is really growing in Orange County. Look at the high school level. There's so many teams at the high school level, the club level, and just Orange County soccer is just big, really.
And also, you know, continuing with the U.S. Open Cup run, I mean, what do you think about Orange County FC getting the better of Orange County Soccer Club in the second round of the U.S. Open Cup? I mean, just want to say, I have to mention bragging rights, you know, before you, you know, come back with your response.
Yeah, I mean, that was. I mean, when you see, when in the Open Cup, when you see the pro teams, you expect the pro teams to beat the amateur clubs. I mean, that's just the way, sort of the way things are. And to see them the way they handle things was impressive. I mean, Paul Caligiuri did a great job getting those guys. I mean, sort of like, you know, David and Goliath knocking off OCSC and then going to Las Vegas. And then when they stepped on the field, I mean, they didn't look scared. They didn't look intimidated at all. I mean, of course, Zlatan wasn't playing, but there were still pros on the field, and they didn't look scared. They didn't look nervous at all.
And I would just wanted to ask. Before the show, we were even talking about how the turnout was. It wasn't exactly, you know, the stadium for LA Galaxy, but you said that it was a little bit of a different stadium, different venue. You told me there was a pretty good turnout. How can you describe the turnout, the energy, and all that?
Yeah, they played the Open Cup in the track and field stadium, so I think that holds, I don't want to shortchange it, maybe 5,000 to 7,000, maybe 8,000. The bleachers behind the media row was full. The bleachers across the way was pretty full, and then there were so many people lined up along the fence. I mean, it was pretty good crowd. We never got an official number, but it looked. I mean, if they wanted to say they sold 5,000, I mean, they could say they sold 5,000. It was pretty big crowd.
Pretty close,
yeah.
you would say?
Yeah, I think it's probably bigger than their usual Galaxy 2 games, which they play in that stadium. So, it's a pretty impressive crowd. Pretty good turnout.
And you were even telling us before the show, you were saying that you even got to get on-field access for the first time in a very long time, right?
Well, since the press box there isn't as big as the one in the main stadium, they had us sitting. How can I explain it? We're in the bleachers, but like on the first row of the bleachers.
Okay.
So we're watching it field level instead of watching it from a normal press box. So I mean that's different. I mean we're usually not really used to that. But you get people coming up behind you, looking over your shoulder, looking at your computer. Let's see, what are you doing? Who do you work with? What are you writing? What are you watching? Because we were all watching other Open Cup games before the Galaxy game started. So that, I mean, the Open Cup is that different tournament that, you know, it's. I don't think not a lot of teams, they don't take it serious really. I think until the later stages, but it's a fun tournament. different clubs, different levels matching up. So that's why I always like it.
Mm-hmm. And as far as the final question for me is, in your opinion, what's it going to take for a lower division soccer team to take hold in the Orange County long term?
I think they're working. I mean, you could probably tell me. I think they're working on and they're moving on in the right steps. OCFC. I mean, those guys are pretty good following. Orange County Soccer Club's pretty good following. You have other clubs that I'm not really familiar with, but I know the Galaxy played one of the Santa Ana clubs a couple years ago. So I'm sure they're all moving in the right direction. Would you agree?
Yeah, they're exactly right. Direction is one thing. You know, it takes time. Also, I think we have a lot of people that would like to take. I think a lot of people would like to see this move a little faster, but you know, easier said than done sometimes. But yeah, you know, I definitely like the work that Orange County FC has been doing, and you know, I remember seeing the contingent of fans in the supporter section for Orange County Soccer Club. So it's definitely growing.
Damian, just one final question, a follow-up question, I would say. Where do you see OC Soccer going in 5 years?
Wow, it's a tough one. If they just, stay on the right path. There's so many kids, so many teenagers playing soccer in Orange County. Just got to keep growing the game. Fans get out and support the game. I mean, support is always one big factor of a club's growth. People keep coming out, get out in the community. They should, interact in the community. That always helps. Get your name out there. That'll help in 5 years. You never know how big things will get.
Mm-hmm. Damian, again, we appreciate your time, and we thank you so much for coming out to the show tonight.
Thanks, Rob.
And we're going to go ahead and step aside and hear from our sponsors.
Mr. John manages a small football club with just a few followers. Every day he wonders, how can I attract more supporters? Internet is the answer, but a channel is time-consuming, expensive, and hard to maintain. Everything has changed since Mr. John met MyCujo, the football broadcasting solution for small and medium-sized clubs and leagues. Mr. John noticed how everything has started to change quickly when supporters and fans began to arrive. If you want your club to enjoy the same benefits as Mr. John's, sign up with mycujo.tv. Attract more followers for your club and empower its business now. MyCujo, democratization of football broadcasting. mycujo.tv.
Welcome back to Inside the UPSL, presented by TV Max. I'm Alex Naveja, and with me is Damian Calhoun and Dennis Pope joining us a little later on the show, but this was the Goals of the Week, presented by The Right Stuff.
JP Gonzalez steps over, getting in there, and goal! Kwame Salcedo with the left foot volley. The Teamsters have scored the first goal of the game. And as always, good candidates for Goals of the Week, but
I know, Dennis, you had a couple of things that you wanted to talk about as far as goals of the week. What's up? What's going on?
Well, yeah, this was the week 8 goals of the week competition. We did 8 weeks this season, and so these 8 winners now will move on to a season final competition where we'll break them into 2 different groups, and we'll do a final championship poll towards the championship game, leading up to the championship game at the end of July. Damian, what'd you think of the goals?
Pretty good. I mean, the one I like is the number 3, the kid that was on the left-hand side and whipped it in, a high arcer over the keeper. So, yeah, that one there. Once the vote comes out, let me know. I'm gonna vote for that one.
All right. Yeah, the votes were all done on Twitter this year. I think the winner has already been decided for this one. It was the last one, Eric Rajoy from St. Louis Maritza, and he scored. I think that was like outside the 18. I'm pretty sure it was. Here it is again. And tremendous goal. He kind of picks it up, turns his head, turns the ball, and decides to shoot it.
It's a banger.
Yeah. Anyway, received like 45% of the vote this past week, and he'll go into the final 8 with all the winners throughout the regular season as we create the competition for the season champion. And then there'll also be a playoff. Now that it's UPSL playoff season, there'll be a playoff goal, a UPSL goal of the playoffs presented by the Right Stuff as well. So look for that. That's coming up soon. Some teams submit your goals as you play throughout the playoffs. That's essential. And make sure to hashtag them UPSLGOTW. And then certainly, when we think about the best goals of the week, the champion will be put into a process for possibly a role as a brand ambassador for the Right Stuff. So there's some cash prizes coming up at the end of the season for the champion. So some big things are coming up still for goal of the week. So be sure to look for that. It's not over yet, but we have completed the 8 weeks of the regular season that we're doing it for.
So just imagine all of the shows that we've done already, all the difficult times of us analyzing all the goals. There have been so many good candidates. Now imagine having all 8 trying to vote for just one. Can you imagine how difficult it's going to be for the fans now?
It's gonna be great. I think last season when we did it leading up, the fans went crazy for it. They loved it. They wanted to know what was coming up next. It was really a really cool competition that we've created as the UPSL and with the sponsor, the Right Stuff. So I think it's important that we keep the momentum going into the playoffs and keep seeing those fantastic goals come across. And think about it. So all season long, we had 8 competitions, 4 goals. It's 32 goals this season that were just among the final of each week. And we had a bunch of goals sent to us, after the fact from teams like saying, hey, what do you think of this goal? This goal is better than the 4 you guys showed and stuff like that too. So, we get the wide variety of the response for it, but I think overwhelmingly positive. And there will be, again, a goals of the playoffs coming up and then the championship. So
that's going to be pretty interesting too. I would say the playoffs goals of the week, these are guys that are sweating out blood and tears trying to make the best goals possible. So there's going to be 2 votes that you are going to be very valuable.
We'll take like the next month, so to speak, of playoff games, because there's playoff games happening all over the country. SoCal, up in Northern California with the Wild West. There's playoff games going to take place in Texas, and they're going on in Florida. I think there's games going on tonight in Florida in the playoffs. The games are happening. So teams, when you do stream through My Cujo, make sure you hashtag those goals and share those goals so that they can reach the nomination stage. And I think that's the important part. We have to see the nominations come through with the hashtag. And once we do that, then it's up to the league and the fans to determine which one's the best.
Fans, remember to put your hashtags on so that way we can put them on Twitter so you can follow us, stay up to date with the league on following us on Instagram, Facebook, and even on Twitter. That is at UPSL Soccer. But we're going to go ahead and step aside. But when we come back, it'll be time to swing our way to the East Coast Swing. Welcome back to Inside the UPSL, presented by TV Max. It's time for the East Coast Swing as we talk about the pressing topics across the UPSL East. We'll first start off over in Florida as the playoffs are underway in the Central and South divisions. But the weather seems to be a little bit of a problem right there. A lot of games, I wouldn't say just soccer, but around the whole sporting world, a lot of games being canceled, a lot of games being postponed, a lot of things being changed, right?
Yeah, Florida's rough right now with the weather, and has forced some postponements of some games that were supposed to take place this past weekend, forced them into this week. There's games going on Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday of this week, including some important playoff matches down in South Florida. This is lower division soccer. It's sort of all hands on deck, make it happen. The games have to be finished by a certain day in order for those teams to advance to the next stage, and so on and so forth. So they have to find ways and dates and locations to make this stuff happen. And if crazy were to come, and the all-time storm were to happen, there might be provisions for that. But at the same time, games get moved. Results have to happen. The league has to move forward. So, South Florida is making it happen. They're finding ways to do it. Games are in, Boca Raton this week, and Miami, and all different places there in South Florida. So, it's a really exciting time for them. Just kind of a bummer that the weather is what it is.
I would say they should be setting the stage, just like the Cal FC, Cal United game last season when it was that epic rain, that storm that was going on. It was windy, there was thunder, lightning, they were still playing it out.
Yeah, I think usually they like ideal conditions for soccer. That was a directive from U.S. Soccer in the U.S. Open Cup. And so they had to finish that game on that day, hell or high water, really, and it was both in that circumstance. So I think Florida, they're looking hopefully for drier conditions to try and even the playing field, both literally and figuratively here.
So talking about drier weathers, we're really hoping as we shift over to the southeast that they have a little bit of some drier weather over there, as Soda City FC wrapping up the first round in the UPSL division title with a 2-1 win over LSA Pro. How big is that for the team?
You like Soda City? What do you got to say?
Well, Nestor Jaramillo, it's a name you hear a lot with Soda City, and, a great player. He's played his college soccer at Woolford College. Back in 2012, he was the Southern Conference Freshman of the Year. And it's going to be a good game between Soda City FC and Baltimore United. It's going to be on the 22nd of June, and World Class Premier Elite will play San Lee FC in the other semifinals. So a lot of excitement down there, that's for sure.
Yep, the Southeast playoffs are right around the corner, happening very soon. There's 4 teams left, and like you mentioned, those are the matchups. They were Soda City versus Baltimore United, and World Class Premier Elite versus San Lee, right? Those are the 2 matchups.
That's correct, yeah.
And I think they're taking place on the same day at the same park. I think they're going to happen back to back, right? Is that the schedule?
I believe so.
So that's going to be an exciting night of soccer. Do we know the location for that?
Not off the top of my head, but
okay.
it can be found.
Yeah. Well, look online, find it on UPSLsoccer.com. But that's going to be a great night of UPSL soccer. Those Southeast Division Conference semifinals, I should say. Great matchups, I think, the top 4 teams out of the Southeast. And then those teams will progress and move on throughout the Southeast Conference playoffs, so they can look to match up against, either the Florida champion or the Atlanta Caribbean champion, however that setup works out. I think that's still TBA at the moment.
And I mean, we got to expect within these next couple of weeks, it's an exciting time for the UPSL. A lot of playoffs coming around all over the regions and such. So I say be on the lookout for what's coming up in the UPSL as far as in the playoffs are concerned. But now let's talk a little bit about the Atlanta Caribbean, as the KSA Pro Profile climbs the table in the last 2 weeks to claim that top of the division. How were they able to turn the tables?
Well, a big victory over Honduras 5 Stars, I think, in the final week is what propelled them to the top of the table. But they had sort of hung around in the 3-4 spot in the Caribbean Division all season. They looked dangerous. They had some really good results early on. And we sort of wondered early in the season, remember, what was the difference between KSA Pro and KSA Pro Profile? Well, clearly Pro Profile is the better of the 2 teams. I think, to have new blood, and they are a new team in the Caribbean Division from last season, to come up and rise up and win, it means good things for the division going forward. It means new teams are coming in, and I think the Atlanta Caribbean Division has done a really, really good job of attracting attention to itself this season, with both, its internal production quality of how they're producing games every weekend, and Dre Bomar's been a big part of that. I know that you have a good conversational relationship with Dre. What do you know about Atlanta Caribbean right now?
Well, before I get right to that, I just want to say, the whole team name, right? We mentioned KSA Pro Profile. I just want to send the message, start going by the name Kalanji Soccer Academy or Kalanji FC. I just want to throw that out there.
You'd
But yeah,
You're saying you prefer that?
that's correct. And I did have a good conversation, yes, with my good friend Dre Bomar, and he's told me about a lot of things in the Atlanta Caribbean. I mean, aside from league play, they even have a tournament they have coming up this weekend called the President's Cup, and that's just the top 4 teams from the Atlanta Caribbean Division, and so it's basically like an FA Cup.
Okay.
So to speak, and not so to speak. That's exactly what it is.
It's a league cup.
It's a league cup.
Yep.
And it's something for the teams to play for.
That's awesome.
It's separate from UPSL play, and I think that's something that UPSL from all regions could learn from. Maybe take a page out of their book.
That's a good thought.
And and of course, whoever is in the area of the Atlanta Caribbean, UPSL Atlanta Caribbean, at Wheeler High School Stadium on, I believe, the 29th of June. That's a Saturday. In Marietta, Georgia, the UPSL Atlanta Caribbean All-Stars are going to play against CSD Municipal of Guatemala. So this is something to for people to mark on their calendar, and I think that this should become a trend around different UPSL divisions, whether it's an all-star team or just have different teams play against club teams from different countries. Maybe they'll go on a little mini tour, and I think so. Like I said, good conversation I have with Dre Bomar, and I appreciate him relaying all this information to me.
So they have both a League Cup coming up and an All-Star game versus CD Municipal.
That's correct.
And they're a Honduran team? Guatemalan team. Yeah, I think that's awesome. That says a lot about how far they've come in such a short period of time since becoming part of the UPSL. That's great. That's great news.
That's just how much the league continues to grow and just continues to evolve, and a division like the Atlanta Caribbean just continues to advance and just make big things happen.
And they've done that unto themselves. Certainly they have the league that they play in the UPSL, but that's, those sorts of relationships, doing that League Cup, that's something that they're doing autonomously. And I think, like Art said, a lot of different divisions could probably learn a lot from what Atlanta Caribbean Division is doing.
Now let's move over to the Northeast as Mass United FC, 1 point back, just 1 point back of Philly Lone Stars with the game in hand. What's going on with that? What's up with that?
Well, Jim Antonakis' club, they were national semifinalists last spring. They started out this spring very, very hot. I think they had the missed dates, and so they fell off in sort of the terms of total number of games against Philly Lone Star. And Lone Star was able to sort of gain games and get points through those games and sort of build a lead. But Mass United's right there. They continue to win games, and they're continuing to stay right in that hunt. I think it's those two teams in the Northeast Division right now that are going to find themselves neck and neck for the championship of that division.
Can you see one of those teams? Can you hint out who would be up top? I know it's a tough decision right now, but who's so far looking pretty good?
I have a guess, but I'm going to let Art go first.
No, actually, you can go ahead. You can go ahead.
Well, that's really tough because when you think Mass United, I think Jim Antonakis, and he's the UPSL East Coast director. And when I think of Philly Lone Star, I think of Paul Kone and their president, and he is the UPSL East Coast Championship Division II region manager. And so that's a big matchup for the UPSL no matter how you slice it. And if I pick one team over the other, I'm going to be in bad with one. So I think we'd all love to see that matchup at the end of the season. I'll leave it there.
I like the little hot potato play between you and Art like that. But now let's move on over to the Midwest as the Milwaukee Bavarian SC shoots to the top of the Central Division after 4 games. And this is a former champion of last year, now getting their rightfully spot right back up to the top.
Yeah, same as Mass United, but in a different way. They were competing in different tournaments, and so that their league schedule with the UPSL was pretty choppy early on, and they've only played 4 league games to this point, which is the fewest of just about any team across the country in terms of league play so far. But through 4 games, they're already leading that division. That speaks to their quality for sure. A lot of those players are back from last season, including the Andrick brothers, Braden and Logan, I should say, Braden and Logan, and a bunch of their other really top quality guys. And so I think it should come as no surprise to anybody that Bavarian is right back in the lead in their division in the Midwest and looking like potentially the strongest team in that Midwest division.
Did you see that coming as far as Bavarian SC? I know earlier in the season, I know you're talking a lot about Bavarian SC. They were going to be at the top of the Central Division and such, but did you see this happening at all? Or was this a complete surprise for you?
Yes, I did. For me, in UPSL, it's all about Milwaukee Bavarian, and they're tough to beat. They're a good team. They're firing on all cylinders. Mm-hmm. They're awesome.
Yeah, they were competing at the Amateur Cup. They lost their first game, but still to be one of the final 4 teams at the Amateur Cup is a massive deal for any amateur club in this country. So that right there says a lot about their quality, and they've been there time and time again. This isn't their first rodeo, so to speak. Of course, this is their 90th year. They had their 90th celebration a couple of weeks ago, and they just continue to lead the way for pro development soccer across the country.
Leading the way in that, and even just making history. Next thing you know, they're going to be in all of our history books. You're going to be just a chapter on Bavarian SC.
Is it possible we could see them have, in these days in sports, there's so many alternate jerseys. Is it maybe possible we might see like a Lederhosen jersey or something like that?
I want to say sometime in their past they have some old black and white photos of some random kits that they did used to wear that sort of had a German tinge like that to them. I don't know about full Lederhosen and the whole getup, but there's companies that'll create that for you. So maybe a specialty night.
All right, yeah, that sounds like a plan.
Now, final stop. Let's go on over to the Central as the North Division remains ridiculously close with 4 teams with only 4 points. Who's going to come up top, and who are those 4 teams?
I think right there at the top is Inocentes. I think they have 17 points currently, if I'm not mistaken.
Inocentes right now has 19 points. And then I know OKC 18, 89, FC 18 points, Texas Spurs 17.
There it is.
Irving FC with 16.
Right. 4 teams within 4 points with everything to play at the end of the season. I think that's exactly the kind of competition that the UPSL wants. These 4 teams are fantastic teams. Oklahoma City 1889, they bleed purple there, and they're the lone Oklahoma representative in, Reign FC, they're from Oklahoma too this season, but 1889 was the first Oklahoma UPSL team, and so they're sort of holding up the banner in that way. And everybody knows about Inocentes, right? National finalist last year, national semifinalist the season before. Just a fantastic club from top to bottom. And Texas Spurs, a team that's owned and operated by Ed Puskarich, who was at one point a U.S. pool. He was in the pool of U.S. players for the '94 World Cup. And Irving FC, which is an expansion team. And all these clubs, just go to show the ridiculous, you said it, quality in North Texas. Hotbed for soccer for a long time now, the Dallas area. Of course, with the Dallas Cup and the different youth things that go on in Dallas, it's crazy there for soccer. So I don't think this is any surprise that there's this kind of quality and competition, but it's taken 3 full seasons now to reach the point where it's this congested. The last 2 seasons it was sort of Inocentes and Dallas elite, right? And they're not in the league right now. So to see other teams sort of stepping up now and challenging Inocentes is a positive thing, big time.
And I know when it was Art, Damian, and I were talking a little bit about how powerful Texas is in the UPSL. This is a region in the UPSL that should not go underestimated. This is a region that is definitely, I would say, one of the superpowers for the UPSL, especially being the leader. Inocentes being that leader in the Central Division, I would say.
Yeah, the growth in Texas has been phenomenal, and a lot of credit for that goes to Matt Kalla, the UPSL National Director, who started out as the Central Conference Manager, and was since promoted because of his success. He's got the reputation there regionally as a guy that can get things done, and he's shown with more than 26 teams, I think, in the Pro Premier, and all totaled amongst the 3 divisions in the North part of the Central Conference. It's just expanded exponentially there since we started a year or so ago, and Inocentes is the team that sort of holds up that banner right now for North Texas. So it'll be interesting to see if they can hold it off and do it for a 3rd consecutive season.
And again, we were talking about it a little while ago, but Texas will be hosting over in the UPSL Championship Series over towards the ending of July. But that's going to be the end of the tune called the East Coast Swing. But when we come back, it'll be time for us to say what's up to the UPSL West Side. Welcome back to Inside the UPSL, presented by TVE Max. As we all say, what's up?
What's up?
What's up?
What's up?
What's up?
As we talk about the pressing topics across the UPSL West Side. We're first going to start off with the Southwest as FC Grande ends regular season with a 2-0 win over MSC United. How did that game go, Art?
Well, they just played hard, put in a good performance, and and this is a team that's based in Las Cruces in New Mexico.
The only pro development club in Las Cruces.
Yeah, so now they're just waiting for the playoffs, seeing how the rest of that region, division, whatever we want to call it, see how it all plays out. And Southwest FC and Drifters FC are looking good, but let's not forget Sporting AZ FC still has a perfect record: 4 wins, no losses, no ties.
And we could definitely expect that FC Grande is right on their tail. I mean, finishing the season 6-2-2. It's still
the Southwest is still sort of in play. I don't think the regular season's finished yet for some of these teams. I know that there were some makeups from earlier this year. So these, I know FC Grande's record is final, but there's some other teams that still have some games to play, including Sporting AZ. And so, things could be a little bit differently, but I think FC Grande is assured a playoff spot at this point. The rest of how that works out for that Southwest Conference, sort of up in the air. But you got to expect that Sporting AZ is going to be in that mix. That, like Art said, they're unbeaten so far this year. So and Southwest FC and Drifters, the High Plains Drifters, right there, Plano, Texas. Right, so that would be an interesting final foursome for the Southwest. I think that's a good starting point for the Southwest going forward as well, because this is sort of a reboot for the Southwest Conference this season with this many teams. So, for FC Grande to represent again and make it back to the UPSL playoffs for the second consecutive season is pretty awesome.
Yeah, we'll have to wait and see how far they make it to the playoffs. But still, as you said, gotta wait to see the results of some of the games that need to be made up.
Right. And the cool part about that is Las Cruces is on the other side of the border from El Paso, and so that rivalry with Southwest is growing very quickly. So it'd be interesting to see that matchup in the playoffs as well. But yeah,
it's a little bit more growing as far as Texas is concerned, as we were talking about in the East Coast.
Yeah, this is the westernmost part of Texas, El Paso, Plano, Amarillo. Those parts of Texas are in the Southwest Conference. Yeah.
Now let's talk little bit about the Mountain region, as Boise Cutthroats FC gets a big win to stay in the playoff hunt. So there's still playoff hopes. There's still an opportunity for them to make it, but still got to push through. Still a hard route.
Yeah, this Mountain Conference is almost wrapped up. There's only like 1 or 2 games left for some of those teams, and it's still San Juan FC at the top. And I don't think that's going to change. They already have a victory over Utah Murciélagos, and so I think the 1-2 is sort of settled, and Boise's going to fight, right, for that last playoff spot.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, a lot of soccer is being played over there, but basically when looking at the standings, it's San Juan and Murciélagos taking care of business.
And especially with that big win by Boise beating Magic Valley 5-0. So that's definitely going to help them as far as the points that they're going to be scoring.
I mean, that's a big win. Magic Valley was right there with Boise, and so that creates a little bit of separation from them.
Goal in favor is a little higher. Goals against going to be a little lower. So going to help them out as far as defensive numbers are concerned. So let's talk a little bit more about the Pacific Northwest. I mean, I know Alaska is heating up now.
Right.
Soccer's happening now as Cook Inlet SC gets their first official Last Frontier victory. So nice to know that things are going on over in Alaska. Do you want me to start over?
Yeah, start from Alaska.
Alaska? Okay.
Editing won't be a problem.
Oh.
I was thinking about it. I was worrying about light.
I think the transition will be all right.
Nice. It's okay.
Back to Alaska.
Okay.
Keep it light.
Ready? So now let's talk a little bit about the Pacific Northwest, where things are starting to heat up over in Alaska. Finally, soccer action is in play as Cook Inlet SC gets their first official Last Frontier victory.
This is the first victory of any team officially in the Last Frontier division. Cook Inlet, which was, I think, the favorite going in, they have the biggest youth club of the teams that are involved in UPSL Alaska at the moment. So they had the biggest foundation to work from, and they came out and they showed it in their very first game with a 3-0 victory over Alaska City. And Alaska City, they've played in just about everything so far that, so we have to give them credit for just putting themselves out there so much as part of UPSL Alaska. And they sort of took a little bit one on the chin against Cook Inlet, but Cook Inlet's a good side. I think we can expect, some more competition, some, teams beating each other up a little bit more as the short season goes on up there in Alaska. And I'm excited to see how it plays out. And I'm really excited for them to try and get Mike Cujo up and operating up there. I know that they recorded some games and we're supposed to see those, and it's happening, but I want to see those live games. I really do.
Or do you think that the competition is going to heat up over there in Alaska?
It definitely will get better. I can't really use the word heat when talking about Alaska, but yeah, I mean, Cook Inlet, they beat Alaska City FC 2-0 in the preseason. Follow it up with a 3-0 win to start the season, and next they're going to play the Arctic Rush. I think that'll be a good game to watch. Of course, there's not a lot of teams yet, but that's why you just got to wait, season by season, see how much it grows. But yeah, I can't really use the word heat with anything involving Alaska. Just going to make that clear. Sorry, nothing out of the ordinary.
They will have sun like all day long. When is that? It's July, like the end of July or something, when the all day comes there for Alaska. So it'd be cool to see some sort of promotion around that. And we were talking about midnight soccer before and having soccer in 5 time zones now. I think all of that stuff is just like, it's the little like sprinkles and extras on what it already has been a fantastic UPSL season so far. To know that there's UPSL soccer going on in Alaska, it still kind of just blows my mind.
It's going to be crazy saying, catch a Cook Inlet playing at 3 a.m. Eastern or
Right,
wherever
exactly.
the time zone is going to be over there in Alaska, and for us watching it midnight. So it's just going to be pretty mind-blowing staying up to just watch some Alaska
It's
stuff.
2 hours away from West Coast. So if it's 8 p.m. here, I think it's 6 p.m. there still. I think that's how it works.
Oh, we're ahead of 2 hours.
Yeah, West Coast, we're ahead. So, but still, I hear what you're saying.
All right. Let's talk a little about the North Cal division, as the 8-team Wild West division playoff brackets have been released. Which one looks good to you as far as all these matchups coming up, brackets out? What's the matchup that really stands out to you?
8-team playoff in that Wild West seems like it's I don't know. I get a real MLS tinge to the Wild West with this playoffs. It just feels like Contra Costa ran away with the single table, and now all of a sudden we're going to have a playoff there too. I think it's pretty clear who the best team is, and so we're allowing the league is allowing these teams a second crack at some hardware here, which is MLS-ish. To say the least, but those are the matchups. I think Art's got his pick. I like Real San Jose versus Pajaro Valley, Real San Jose versus Contra Costa. I think that's the old guard versus the new guard in the Wild West, and I think Contra Costa is going to lay 4 goals at least at San Jose's feet. What do you think, Art?
Yeah, it seems like earlier in the season, Real San Jose was kind of stumbling a bit. But I feel like this could be one of those scary matchups, because if you're Contra Costa United, you don't want to go into this game and say, okay, we're playing the 8th place team, we're fine. If you don't come in, being prepared, you never know what could happen. But the game I'm really keeping an eye on also is, the 4 versus 5 seed. Because it's always a toss-up. And that's AFC Hearts of San Francisco against Jaza Redwood City. I think that's the one I'm looking forward to the most, as in terms of excitement and suspense.
Are you going to be watching it over there in Mike Cuju also?
I will definitely do my best. I'll look for it.
That's part of why I'm interested in the Real San Jose Contra Costa game. There's always some real intense emotions happening from the Real San Jose side, and Contra Costa, they've been a cool customer all year. So I think it's sort of a clashing of different styles, different cultures there, and I think that is. Real San Jose was like the original UPSL Wild West team, and Contra Costa is like the new dog. It's like the old dog versus the new dog, and I think the new dog is just going to swallow up that old dog. It's just going to crush that old dog.
Oh man, is that exactly how you imagine it?
Well,
going?
that's I'm a visionary maybe, I don't know.
So you have a thing for dogs?
I love dogs. Dogs are great, man. Dogs are man's best friend. I got 3 dogs at home.
Nice. You have 3. I only have 2. So
It's not a competition, Alex.
no competition. But we'll talk about the dogs.
Okay,
Don't worry,
alright.
we'll talk about the dogs. But final stop over in SoCal, and already some playoff action has already gone on as Santa Ana Winds FC and Cuervos FC will be advancing to the next round, and they have a pretty tough competition coming their way. What's the next step for both of these ball clubs?
The SoCal division we're getting down to the nitty gritty here at the end. There's 3 games left, right? There's the SoCal semifinals and then the championship game. I think, the Cal FC versus Santa Ana Winds. That's the marquee matchup of the 2. And then on the other side, you have Newcastle United, a team out of Upland, California, playing Cuervos FC out of San Diego. And that'll sort of be like the secondary or JV version of the SoCal championship. But Newcastle, very strong club, had an excellent season. Cuervos sort of surprised everybody with their win over LA Wolves in the quarterfinal, I should say. I think it's a 4 great representatives of Southern California UPSL. I like, that we're going to get to see Winds play Cal FC, last season's Western Conference champion versus this season's. Cal United FC, I should say, won the championship. But Santa Ana Winds was right there at the end, and Cal FC, they've been an excellent team in the U.S. Open Cup. They won the SoCal North Division for the 2nd consecutive season. They've pretty much shown their pedigree once again in returning to the UPSL, back from when everybody knew them several years ago with their U.S. Open Cup run, and I think they're back. They're back on the scene and hopefully committed, to maintaining a high level there with Cal FC. And I think this weekend on Mike Cujo, everybody's going to be looking to see what happens.
First of all, I want to say good job on the accent and saying Cuervos.
I've been working on it.
I like it. But Art, I know these are some pretty tough matchups coming up. What do you think is going to be the keys as far as, I would say, the underdog Santa Ana Winds going into this one, taking on the number 1 seed Cal FC? When coming into the show, they were talking about it was going to be Santa Ana Winds traveling up north to Calabasas for a soccer game, but now that's changed over here to LA Harbor College, so a little bit more of a venue, a little more local for us, the local fans for Santa Ana. So a little bit of a home game, I would say, for Santa Ana, right?
Yeah, you could say it's kind of like, it'll kind of be like a home game. I think you have fans from both teams being there, but I just think the thing worth pointing out the most is, that whole feeling of having a chip on your shoulder. I mean, remember, it was Cal FC that eliminated Santa Ana Winds in the U.S. Open Cup qualifier, and of course, Winds will have revenge on their minds. So, I mean, are they going to play to win? I mean, of course, that's the strategy is play to win, but are they also going to be thinking revenge at the same time? And if sometimes you do that, will that maybe throw you off your game?
I think that's probably going to already leave their bloods boiling at that point. They said, hey, you guys already eliminated us from the U.S. Open Cup qualifier. Now we want to win you where it matters 100% here in the playoffs.
Yeah, it's an opportunity to bump them out, to bump them out of this competition. So, I think Art's right. They're going to have revenge and, wanting to move on their mind. So there's not going to be any reason for Santa Ana Winds not to be motivated for this one.
And of course, since that game was moved over to LA Harbor College, you guys can always come on by, watch the game, support your local team, whether it's Cal FC or even the Santa Ana Winds. Come by, watch some good quality soccer. But that's all the time we have left tonight. We thank you all so much for tuning in tonight. Of course, we want to thank our visitor Damian Calhoun for joining us on the show, along with Art F. Dakari, and as always, Dennis Pope, except you weren't here for the last 2 weeks.
Yeah, I know.
But still, as always, you were lucky and fortunate enough to join us tonight. But I'm Alex Naveja, your host tonight. We'll see you guys next week. Have a good night, everybody.